Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your producer and host of the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. This is your motivational podcast of people's incredible journeys. Oh yeah, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I am Dr. Lino Martinez, your host for the show, and today I would love to welcome Jeremy Grater. Lives in British Columbia. He spent the majority of the last decade experimenting with a variety of wellness tools to improve his mental health, lose 70 pounds, that's incredible, and share what's helped along the way. He's also been in the broadcasting and podcasting business for about 2 decades. Jeremy is a certified REBT Mindset Life Coach. Welcome to the Little Less Fear podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. This is going to be great.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for your patience. Thanks for waiting. And I'm just really delighted to talk to other fellow podcast members. This is really incredible. So tell us about your journey before we talk into podcasting, before we talk about REBT Mindset Coach, which I'm really fascinated about. What brought you to your current journey?
You know, the timeline lines up with becoming a father, but I don't really think that it was the being the father part that fixed it. It was, I had a lifelong, what I found to be a struggle with alcohol. I was not, I still don't believe I was ever an alcoholic, but I think I definitely learned to use it as a coping mechanism for my emotions that I never really learned how to process in a healthy way. Grew up your typical 80s kid with, alcoholism in the home, middle-class upbringing and, sort of some of the trauma that comes along with that. I mean, little T trauma, not anything significant, but along the way, there was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of insecurity that just I never really outgrew. And once I became a father, it was sort of just more of the same, just trying to keep up with the rat race, keep up with the Joneses, do whatever I could. And one morning, everything changed. I had a very young daughter, and anyone who has a young child knows that when there's a knock at the door at 6 o'clock in the morning, you do not want that kid to be woken up. And my dog started barking. So I roll out of bed to stop whatever the noise was before it woke my kid up. And whatever happened, like, I don't even know what I did. I stepped wrong and went down. My knee just buckled and I could not put any weight on it. Ended up being some sort of nerve damage. But going to a physical therapist, she told me, what you really need to do, like, you have a history of knee replacements in your family, whatever is going on here, you need to get on a bike. You need to get on a bike as much as possible, or you're going to end up replacing your knees. And I thought, well, that's insane. I haven't ridden a bike since I was 6 years old. What am I going to do? I'm 30 something years old. This is nuts. So I did what I did at the time. I went to my brother and complained and said, what a crazy doctor. He thinks I'm going to get on this bike and ride a bike.
Yeah.
And he said, dummy, all you need to do is decide you're that weird guy that rides his bike to work every day. Just start bike commuting. And it's one of those things where, it's not groundbreaking advice. Nothing blew me away about it.
Yeah.
But however he said it in that moment, I became that guy.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm weird for lots of reasons. Why not that one? I can handle that.
Sure.
Literally in a week, I bought a bike and started this 9-mile commute to work that completely changed
9
my
mile
life.
one way or 9 mile
Each way.
Holy moly, Jeremy. Whoa.
Yeah.
With an injured knee, you just went for it.
Yeah. I was like, if this is who I am now. This is just what I do.
Yeah.
So I just started riding. And what the craziest part was, is not only did it take me to work, but it showed me something else. It showed me how to live in the moment, because if you're riding on a bike in city streets, if you're not in the moment, you're not going to be in any moment for very long, because it's going to end badly.
Right.
And it was just wild, because not only am I getting all the endorphins and the dopamine and everything from the exercise, but that the power to let go of whatever was rolling around in my head, or anxiety about work and what's going to happen today and all the problems that are coming my way. I was able to let go of all of that. And I went to my wife and I said, how do I bring more of what's on my bike into the rest of my life?
I love it.
She said, I have no idea, but you need to go talk to a therapist.
But that's a good question you asked yourself, though.
Yeah. And so my therapist, he taught me about Buddhism. He taught me about meditation. He taught me about the power of now, just being present in the moment. And man, that just opened door after door after door. All of a sudden, I found myself in the gym. I found myself walking by the trays of food in the office that would normally be the handful of snacks that you grab, and looking at it and not even identifying it as food, just being like, that's not even food. Why would I eat that?
Yeah, it's not nutritious.
Yeah, and it all just snowballed into a long, long journey now of experimenting with different things to try and manage not only my physical health, but what I ultimately learned was ways to manage my mental health.
And did this also alleviate the symptoms of the drinking that you were experiencing?
So yeah, along the way, I had been on and off a bunch of different antidepressants. Most of them came with side effects that made things worse than better.
Yeah.
And I got to a point. It was around the time of of biking. I actually got in an accident. I crashed, broke my collarbone, was on some pain medication for about a week, and it was the good stuff. Don't get me wrong, it was the good stuff. And about a week of it, I realized I need to get off of this before it becomes a problem. And so I
Wait, hang on,
stopped
Jeremy.
that. Yeah,
You got in an accident riding bike before the knee injury or after the knee injury?
the knee injury came. That's what got me on the bike, and
And
then it led to a collarbone fracture.
okay.
Probably a year or two later.
And then that accident presented you with something that some addicts could potentially become addicted to, but you were able to say, put a stop to it and
Yeah,
stop it.
yeah. I called my doctor after about a week because I was just like, if I stay on this, I'm never getting off it. I need to stop this. And so he said, yeah, cool, take Tylenol, whatever. So I did that. But then I got really curious because I'd been on and off of these antidepressants. And I thought, what if I stopped those two? What if I stopped taking
Yeah.
this one? And
Yeah.
so a couple of weeks later, I stopped for about a month just to kind of see how it felt. And I started feeling a little bit better. And then New Year's came, and I think I must have had like 2 beers that night, or like New Year's Eve.
Uh-huh.
Nothing out of the ordinary for me. That would be like any other weeknight or whatever. But I woke up with enough of a hangover to just realize, man, I feel awful, and that wasn't even worth it. Like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'm just for a month, I'm just not going to drink and just see how I feel. And that was 7 years ago. And I haven't had a sip since then because I realized this clarity that came with not
Yes.
turning to the bottle or the can or whatever every
Right.
time something felt bad.
Right.
And it was miserable. Don't get me wrong. It took me like 2 years to really be able to identify that's what's going on here. That I knew it, but I couldn't really connect that I was miserable because I didn't have a coping mechanism. I didn't know what to do with the feelings.
Yeah.
And so that led to but and I've had depression my entire life, so that opened up all kinds of spirals into that and just really struggling. And so I had a lot of therapy, tried a lot of different group therapy sessions, my own therapist, just trying to throw everything I could at it to try to get it under control. And ultimately I did. I'm able to drive by a brewery and not feel like, oh, I wish I could go in there. Like that just was such a part of my identity and my lifestyle
Sure.
that yeah, I've been able to completely shed that and focus on healthier choices when it comes to coping.
Well, congratulations. That's an incredible 7 years is really quite an accomplishment. Really,
Yeah, thank you.
congratulations to you. That's
Thank you.
incredible. And so prior to getting on this bicycle and it spiraling into a better version of yourself, if you could use those two words together, spiraling and better version
Yeah.
of yourself, did you ever imagine or think or hope that you would be a better version of yourself prior to that? Or did that kind of happen by coincidence?
I mean, I've had flashes of it, but the terrible thing for me in my experience with depression is that I've had opportunities, I've had things I could have pursued or gone after, but there's always this ghost over your shoulder that's like, nah, that's not for you. What if you wake up and I'm there? How are you going to do that? What if what if you just can't get out of bed that day? How are you going to do that? And so I've hidden a lot because I've always been afraid if I'm out in the spotlight, if I'm there, if I'm really showing up as me and that guy shows up, he wins every time. And I'm not going to be able to get out of that shadow. And so it's really been, I mean, honestly, I had probably the longest stretch of depression of my life last summer, and I'm now in the middle of my longest stretch without it because I've gone just 180 degrees the other way, trying to do whatever I can to win that fight because I'm tired of losing. It's been 47 years of losing that fight. I don't want to lose it anymore.
And so last year being the longest stretch of depression, were you able to pinpoint what was the cause of the depression? What were the thoughts, the beliefs that were running through? What kind of patterns were running through your
I
mind?
think I think for most people you'll find that depression is triggered by overwhelm. There's when there's environmental, when there's work, when there's family, when there's financial, when all of these things come together, it just becomes too much. And not really learning how to cope with my feelings until the last 10 years. I have had a system that's not really capable of managing it very well.
Mhm.
So It was a combination of work stress. So I was at a job where, it was not stable. That was leading to financial insecurity.
Mhm.
I'm a relatively new immigrant in the country where I live. I literally moved away from the city where I lived, spent my entire life 3 years ago. So I'm very isolated. I still don't have a lot of like community or friends that are close.
Mhm.
So it was kind of a combination of all of those things colliding at once. And and I'm a parent. I'm going through all this with these kids. We've completely uprooted them from their lives, and I'm constantly wondering, did I screw them over? Right? Did I do the right thing for them?
Yeah.
And so there's all this pressure to make sure I got this right. Because if I didn't, then I not only messed up my own life, but my entire family's.
Yeah, that is a lot of
So
pressure.
yeah, just I think it ultimately was what led to it.
So it's like a snowball effect of just a bunch of things, a whole new environment. Am I doing the right thing? I want to make sure my kids are okay. This job is not bringing out the best in me. Just a bunch of stuff that just kept piling up, piling up, and piling up.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how did you get out of this big pile up?
Well, it's ironic. My wife and I started a couple years ago. We've never really done New Year's resolutions, but we started doing the one word resolution. Like, what is this year? What's my focus for this year in one word? And last year I went into it with the word help in mind because I've been trying to figure it out on my own for so long. It's like I'm finally going to just like lean into help. I'm just going to ask for help where I need it. And it wasn't until I hit this point where I was like, that's it. I know I can't do this on my own. So I reached out to a coach who we happen to have had on our show at one point, and we hit it off. He's a good guy. And I wasn't even really sure what I was going to him with. I was just like, how do I get out of this? I don't know what to do. And he was very aware of my situation. He'd been there before. He knew what I was talking about, and he just pointed me toward an app that has completely changed my life in terms of workout routines. He's just really helped me see that wasn't the end. That this obstacle really was the way. And so by showing me how to move my body every day, mostly every day, how to eat a little bit better, really focus on sleep, really dial in the basics,
Yeah.
that's really all it took. And
Mhm.
the crazy thing is, I know that. I've been saying that on my show for long are we going? 6 years now. I mean, I say this all the time, but like everyone, I want a quick fix. I don't want the answer to be do hard work every day. I don't
Yeah.
want the answer to be sacrifice. I don't want the answer to
Right.
be push yourself beyond your limits. I want the answer to be buy this course for $100 and feel better in 2 weeks, right? Take
Right.
this pill and watch all of your problems melt away. That's what I
Right.
want. That's what everybody wants.
For sure.
But I've learned in ways I never knew possible in these last, really, it's been like 6 months, that it's just facing the demons every day and winning the battle as much as I can. That's how I keep it under control.
And so in facing the demons and facing them head on, you have to break down some fears. What do you tell yourself when you're faced with the demon of, let's just say, today you don't feel good. Today you don't want to do anything. Today you just
Mhm.
want to lay in bed all day. Today life sucks. How do you get out of that?
Uh, I mean, I know other coaches say this, but it's couldn't be more true. You just say, so,
Hmm.
right? Like what other, so there's 1,000 excuses. I'll give you 100 reasons why I don't want to do something today. But
Sure.
I made a promise to myself that this is what I'm going to be. That, like, to become the person I want to be, it requires this.
Yeah.
So if I want to keep losing the fight, if I want to keep feeling miserable, if I want to stay overweight, if I want to stay unfulfilled, feeling unsuccessful, feeling like success is for other people, like happiness is for other people, living a full and rewarding life. If that's only for other people, cool, stay in bed.
Yeah.
Cool, eat whatever you want. Cool, don't go to the gym today. But if you want to be the guy you've been trying to become for the last 40 years, that's the way.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, I sort of mentioned this already, but just the concept of the obstacle is the way. It's a great Ryan Holiday book. Completely changed my life. It completely changed my perspective on challenges. Challenges and difficulties are not the thing that are getting in your way. They are the way.
They are
By
the way.
overcoming those things, that's how you develop the confidence. That's how you develop the strength to overcome the next one. So don't get me wrong. I love being the victim. I'm an expert at it. It's super easy. It's, oh, poor me. Everything sucks and I can't catch a break. But I know how that story ends. So
Sure.
I'm trying to tell a different one.
You're trying to tell a different story so that you don't remain and sustain yourself with victim consciousness,
Yeah.
getting
I know how
yourself
I
out of
know
it.
I know where that takes me. It takes me right back to the couch feeling miserable and depressed and
Yeah.
unable to get off the couch and unable to be there for my kids, unable to be there for my wife, worried about like literally worried about success, worried about being good at something and being successful, because what if I'm too depressed to do it that day? I'm going to lose that job. I'm going to lose that fame, that notoriety, that whatever, because I'm afraid of how I'm going to feel, some of the time. And I just don't want to feel like that anymore.
I don't want you to feel like that anymore either.
Yeah. It's not a good time.
Not at all. But you've got some good amount of time. It sounds like you've got the right tools. You know how to get yourself out of it. You're seeing a better version of yourself and you're reaching for that better version of yourself.
Yeah. And, part of it too is, honestly, I think the foundation of this has been just it sounds so silly to say it out loud now, but it's just going to the gym for me. This is what it is for me.
Yeah,
Going into that room, lifting heavy things 3 or 4 days a week.
sure.
Every single time I proved to myself that I could do something hard by going there, because I don't want to. I'd much
Yeah.
rather be on the couch playing video games. That sounds way more fun. I go there and I lift something heavier than last time. So again, I've done something hard. So this confidence starts to build.
Yeah,
And then if I'm doing that work, I don't want to eat things that are going to slow down the progress that I'm trying to make.
right.
But ultimately, I'm not there to build muscle or lose weight or fit
Yeah.
into the better swimsuit or anything like that. I'm literally there for what's between my ears, because the way I feel after going there is what fuels me to go the next time. I literally, right before I was talking to you, I was downstairs in the gym of this building
Yeah.
getting it done because I made that promise to myself.
Excellent.
And it just feels so much better when I do it, because I mean, again, endorphins, dopamine, all the stuff, but I made a promise to myself that I could do this hard thing and I did it. And so now it's done, and I can do whatever I want for the rest of my day because I've already done that hard thing.
You said something really important. You highlighted the fact that it's how it makes you feel. And almost always with decisions that we're trying to make in life, it's how does this make you feel? If it feels good and if it feels like it's fulfilling you, whether or not there's an end result, all you have to do is go towards the path of goodness, what feels right. That's what's right for you. And that's
Mhm.
what elevates you without actually looking at the how or the end result. You're going with the good feeling. And that's how you rewire your brain. That's how your brain remembers that was the right path for you. And that's how you keep going and keep motivating yourself. That's really incredible.
But it's also tricky, right? Because it feels really good to sit on the couch and do nothing.
It
It
does,
feels
yeah.
really good to sit on the couch and eat a bowl of cereal and play video games. Like, that feels awesome. But like an hour later, does it? Do you feel good the next day? Do you get out of bed ready, like with energy and
Right.
psyched and ready to go? No. You have to be more focused on the long-term result and not
Yeah.
so focused on the instant gratification. Yes, sitting on the couch doing nothing feels awesome right now, feels bad later. Going to the gym feels bad now, feels awesome later. And I just I'm I just I constantly try to picture myself 20 years from now.
Sure. That's
What
excellent.
what is that guy going to say to me now? Is he going to say thank you for making this decision today, or is he going to say, if only? Because I know the me that talks to me 20 years ago has a lot of advice that would have paid off a lot better than what that guy did. So I
Right.
want to make future me more proud of me than I am of past me.
Right. That's excellent. It's also awesome that you pointed out the difference between feeling good with instant gratification, sitting on the couch versus something that's going to be feeling good for longevity, something
Yep.
that's going to be good ultimately long term.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the difference between what feels good at the moment versus what feels good for a long time.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
think that's more sustainable for sure, going to the gym if you want long lasting happiness for yourself and for everybody around you. Because when you're feeling good, everybody else is around you is going to start to feel good. And it becomes addicting to feel good. Because when you're feeling down, everything and everyone around you comes down with you. And
I
that's,
see it. Yeah.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
I see it every day. My kids, when I'm down, when I'm struggling, when I'm not able to show up, they're the same way. They're
Sure.
grumpy, they're irritable, they're fighting with us.
Right.
And my wife told me the other day, because we were both kind of having this realization of like, wow, you haven't been depressed for like months. What's going on? And I connected all the dots of like, oh yeah, because I'm like actively fighting this thing like hell. And she's like, even your daughter, my daughter's Margot's, even Margot noticed like you've been in a lot better mood for a long time. And that's better than any race trophy I'm ever gonna. Don't get me wrong, I'm never gonna race. That's not me. But that's better than any trophy that's gonna go on the mantle, is to hear my
Sure.
kids say, "Dad's showing
Oh,
up."
I can't imagine how beautiful that felt.
Yeah,
How
it's
beautiful that
incredible.
feels. And that's motivating for you to keep going.
Yep. Yeah, it's all for them. I mean, I like feeling better, but I have what's the word? There's a cycle that I'm trying to break that runs deep and runs long, and I'm doing my best every day to try to break that cycle.
Keep going, Jeremy. You got this. You got this.
Thanks, man.
So you've lost 70 pounds. Is this correct?
Yeah.
And did this happen during your bike riding journey, or did this happen before or after a bike riding journey?
Yeah, the bike in combination with not drinking hundreds and hundreds of calories of beer every week had
Oh,
an
wow.
amazing side effect together of helping me lose a lot
Yeah.
of weight. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can imagine that for sure.
Yeah.
And so then it's been somewhat easier to keep it off because you've changed your lifestyle and your eating
Yeah.
habits and everything.
I keep trying to find that 70 pounds every now and then, but no,
Yeah.
I do my best to keep it at bay. But I also know, like, I've talked to enough experts now to know that the number on that scale doesn't mean a damn thing. Like, it's you can be perfectly healthy at 240 pounds, you can be perfectly healthy at 150 pounds. It just depends on other factors. There's so much more
Yeah.
going on there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't gotten on a scale. I don't even, it's been months. I don't ever look, because again, that's not what I'm in it for. Like, I'm not here trying to win some bikini contest or something. I'm
Right.
here to make sure that I'm showing up and being the best version of me at whatever the number on the scale says, but that doesn't determine my value.
Who is the best version of Jeremy?
He is a dad that can keep his emotions in check. He is a hard worker that makes sure that basic needs are met, that he can show his kids the world, that he doesn't have a lot of regrets, um, that he can continue not hearing all the voices in his head that have told him how worthless he is for his entire life. That's been one of the biggest transformations I've gone through in the last couple of years. Is I went through a program that literally, I remember the last time I said to myself, "Oh, you idiot! I can't believe you." Like, in the middle of the sentence, I caught myself and went, "Or it's been a busy day. You rushed to get where you are. Circumstances made it so that you forgot your toothbrush. Does that make you an idiot? No,
Right. Yeah.
it's
Right.
circumstances." Literally, that's the last time I thought to myself, "You suck. You're an idiot. I can't believe you did that." Like, I have a better relationship with myself now because I don't have that voice in my head, and I'm just starting to replace it with something else. There's been this weird vacuum of silence for a long time because that was the voice that dominated everything.
Hmm.
And when it went away, all of a sudden it was just like, oh, what do I do with all this room in my head? What do I do with all this
Yeah.
silence?
Right.
And so now I'm starting to be able to reprogram it with, like, you can do this. You can do hard things. This is
Yeah.
nothing. You can do this. So yeah, it's a journey.
It is a journey. You know what's incredible is when you start to what you did is you literally changed your brain chemical makeup by switching a false belief into something that an irrational belief into something rational.
Yep.
You're able to slow down, get into this space and say, "Hey, this isn't true for me. This is actually what's true." And
Yeah.
when you're able to see that, you gained a new belief and you
Hmm.
were able to adopt that new belief and now know what's true for you and go in
Yeah.
with the new evolved thought, higher version, better version of yourself.
Yeah. The I love what you said there about agreeing with those statements, because that also applies to what other people say about you, right? Like,
Yeah,
especially in our modern era of trash talking on Twitter and, throwing
that's
shade
true.
at each other. Like, it's amazing how somebody can say something terrible about you and you will own it. I'm like, yeah, God, they got me pegged. I can't. I do suck. They're right. But in a moment, if you just take a moment, like you said, slow down. This is something that
Yeah,
everyone needs to do more of. Slow down and just ask yourself, do I agree with that? Is that real?
yeah.
Or is that just what some clown said on Twitter? And the minute that you realize I don't agree with it, it loses all of its power.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All you have
Definitely.
to do is recognize that that's not true for you. It might be true for them. They think you're a clown. Cool. They can live in that existence. That's great for them. But if you don't agree with it, it loses all of its power. But the minute you agree with it, it becomes a part of you. And you have to work to extract it again. And that's much harder than just acknowledging that's not real.
I love what you said. Is that true for you? I've actually asked myself that question whenever I do get like in a downward spiral. Is this true? I'm like, hang on a minute. No, it's not. That's a really
Yeah.
good question for people to ask themselves. Hang on a minute. Slow down. Is this true for you? Does this feel true for you? Well, yeah. Well, first people might have defenses. Like, hang on, but for reals, is this
Yeah.
true for you? Actually, no, it isn't. No, I don't even know where that came from. Well, let's explore where that came from. Or even just
Curiosity.
drop it and not even have to explore it. Just drop it and
Yeah.
know that it's not true for you and let it go.
Yeah. Curiosity is a superpower. Like no matter what vices you have, I still struggle with emotional eating. You know, again, coping mechanisms. It's really easy to go to the pantry when something feels bad.
Yeah.
And I can stand there and again, slow down. Nobody's racing here. When that pantry's open and you're looking at it and nothing looks good, is it because nothing looks good? Or maybe you're not hungry. Like, what are you doing there?
Yeah.
Maybe you're standing there because you have pain in your heart and you need to do something about it. Maybe you need to go cry. Maybe you need to go ask for a hug.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to go throw something heavy around at the gym to move that energy around.
Yeah.
But I know most of the time when I'm standing there looking at it, I just have to ask myself, am I really hungry? Is that what I'm doing here? Most of the time the answer is no, because I built a lot of bad habits that's where I go when the feelings flare up. And so, I mean, that applies to everything. Do I need this beer? Do I need to, I don't know, do I need to watch this TV show at 10:30 at night, or should I go to bed and get an extra half hour of sleep? Like the more you get curious about the things you're doing, because we're functioning on autopilot. We're all running around
Yeah.
like just crazy, trying to get everything done. We're trying to be super dad. We're trying to get to work. We're trying to do all the things. We're trying to do amazing podcasts.
Yeah.
There's rarely time to ask, why am I doing this? How is this really serving me? Is this helping me become the person I'm trying to become? Or am I doing this because a couple of years ago I said I was going to do this? Or am I doing this because it's a habit I learned when I was 4, when I had, when I felt bad?
Yeah.
If you get really curious about the why behind what you're doing, it gets a lot easier to change those habits.
Get curious about the why you're doing what you're doing to change habits, and also see these habits as just negative, or you not even, and don't even put a positive or negative feeling to it, but just know that it's energy that's stuck in the body.
Yep.
The energy needs to be moved around. So when you're able to realize, be like, hang on, what is this feeling or emotion that I'm having? That's energy. How can
Yeah.
I convert this specific energy to give me a different type of energy? And you can even tell yourself that I'd like to change this energy into something more positive or more fruitful, something that's going to benefit me and benefit people around me. If you can
Yeah.
give yourself that little mantra, you are actually set the intention and you could set the cycle into something more positive. It's really amazing how people can do that, change your own
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also going back to how people, and I know a lot of people do this. I mean, I've done it myself, where we talk bad about ourselves, or where I'm an idiot, or I shouldn't have done that, or I'm stupid, or here you go again, or there we go again in that pattern. I mean, rather than saying something like that to ourselves, recognize that we're about to talk shit to ourselves. And would we talk to other people like this? I
Yeah.
know I wouldn't. There's no way I would talk to anybody around me like this. I mean, not
Yeah.
even my cat. If my cat doesn't never shits in the box. And let me tell you, I used to get pissed off all the time, and I'd be like, oh my God, here you go again. I've had this cat for 12 years. It's not gonna change.
Right.
Once in a while, I still slip, but I'm like, oh, it's okay. I still love him. He's still love. He still brings me joy. It's all good. He's not gonna shit in the box, and fuck it. So then I just, pick it up and then go about my day and let it go. But
Right.
we've got our own shit. What are you gonna do with your own shit? Are you gonna just recognize the shit, talk shit to yourself, or just pick up your shit, let it go, and then
Yeah.
just start a new day and just keep going from there?
There's this analogy I love, and somebody we had on our show shared it with me, and he basically said, like, your life is the front lawn of your house, right? Like, you wake up one morning, your neighbor dumped a bunch of trash on the lawn. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility now. It's sitting there on the front lawn. Who's going to clean it up? It's up to you. You're the
Yeah.
only one that can deal with it. That guy's not going to come back and clean it up for you. Mom's not going to come over and clean up your front yard for you. It's
Right.
on you.
Yeah.
Same thing with all this stuff. And all this stuff, by the way, I it amazes me the more that I learn this about myself and the more I talk to people about this. All this crap comes from childhood stuff. Nobody gets out of childhood unscathed,
I
right? Like,
know.
no matter
I
how
know.
good it was, you
I
got
know.
some
Right.
shit you got
Right.
to deal with from being a kid. So, but now it's time to be the grown up and clean up after that kid. Now you got to start
Yeah.
figuring out, unravel that stuff. I tell this story occasionally. I was at Thanksgiving, and my mom, amazing. I love my mom. She's incredible because she does things like this. She made 4 different lasagnas for Thanksgiving because everyone had
Oh,
different
wow.
dietary issues, right? Different dietary issues. 4 lasagnas. If you've ever
Yeah.
made one lasagna,
Because
it's
one
fantastic.
lasagna, man, it wasn't enough, huh?
Pain in the ass.
Right.
I'm in her kitchen, Thanksgiving Day. She's kind of putting the final touches on everything, and she's like, just downplaying all of, oh, this one's going to be too watery. This one's probably getting cold, like giving us all the reasons why it's not going to be good. It just was incredible. And again, I love my mom. I don't blame her for this. She's repeating patterns that, from her
Exactly.
childhood and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I heard her doing that and I went, oh my God, that's the voice in my head. I do that. I lower the bar on absolutely every fucking thing because I want people to be impressed that I was able to show up and just do it. But the fact that 4 lasagnas, everyone went back for seconds, thirds, and fourths, and most of them were gone, completely destroys her argument that it's too watery, too cold. This isn't
Yeah,
good enough.
right.
It was incredible. Had she said nothing, we all would have been just like, whoa, what? This is incredible.
Yeah.
But I had this amazing moment of realizing the voice that has been telling me to lower the bar, make sure everyone thinks you're like just showing up is enough. I picked that up from hearing my parents do that.
Yep.
And then I heard, I also have always had thoughts in my head that were planted there by my dad.
Yeah.
I thought were me. But in that moment, I realized, oh my God, all these things that I've been telling myself forever, I'm telling myself them because when I heard them as a kid, I hadn't yet separated that we were separate people. And so whatever was true for them was true for me.
Right.
And now at 45 years old, I'm sitting here unraveling the fact that like none of that is true. I don't agree with any of it. And yet it's the story I've told myself my entire
Yeah.
life
Right.
and have built my identity around it.
Yeah. And the incredible thing is they learned it from their ancestors
Yeah.
and their ancestors learned it from their
Yep.
ancestors. And until we can break that habit, the cycle is going to continue.
Yeah. So now I have to be way more careful. And honestly, I don't have to be that much more careful now because I've killed that voice in my head. But it was really easy to be, self-deprecating around my kids and like say bad things about myself and, dad's not cool and like all these things. But now I realize, what was I telling them about themselves? Like if I suck, what are they learning about who they are? Because they're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to wake up one day in their 40s and realize, oh, that's because dad always said that. That's weird. Why do I think
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad you're
Yeah.
putting a stop to it now.
Yeah. Somebody's got to.
So tell us about REBT. You're an REBT mindset coach. For those tuning in for the first time, I know being a professor of this specific topic actually, but coming from your words, what is an REBT? What does it stand for? And what is an REBT mindset coach?
I'm sure you can describe it better, but the basis of it, I really studied it because I was interested in it, and I don't put it into practice. It's not something I necessarily do, as a profession, although it does help in different coaching roles that I've had.
Sure.
But it basically is just helping you have a perspective shift, just being able to see things differently than the way you see them. So if you can help someone to change their rational belief system or their irrational belief system to a more rational belief system,
Right.
it just helps to perpetuate the things that we're talking about here so that you stop telling yourself all these lies and seeing things in worst case scenarios and being able to see them in a different light so that you can, have a better relationship with yourself, really.
Yeah. REBT, rational emotive behavioral therapy, a lot of it has to do with people's core beliefs.
Mhm.
And a lot of the schemas, they also known as schemas, the types of beliefs that people have built around themselves and what they believe they think are true about themselves. And it's not until you actually bring it into light, such as what you were saying right now. Am I really an idiot? Well, why am
Yeah.
I an idiot? Or why am I worthless? What's my core value here? The core value is here. Nobody's ever going to love me. Where did that come from? Is this true? What makes this true? And kind of just reevaluating it and actually writing it down or talking to someone about it and being able to break it down and knowing that none of this is true. None
Yeah.
of this stuff has ever been true. I mean, you're not born feeling these things. These
Yeah.
things are things that we pick up through our environment.
A lot of it is, doing what my therapists have always done for me. It's just literally holding up a mirror and saying, here's what I'm hearing you say. Is that true? Here's the story you're telling me. That's not what I know you to be. And to be able to just frame it in different ways, add a little humor, add different perspectives to these things, it just changes all that programming so that you can, again, like not just be controlled by these 40-year-old stories you've been telling yourself that
Yeah,
get in the way of you becoming who you're trying to become.
right. Exactly. We're all just trying to become fun and happy and joyful and peaceful and
Yeah.
loving and just having
It's
them wanting
it's
to
all
have
this
fun along the
society
way.
that keeps getting in the way and screwing everything up.
So, hey, tell us about your podcast. You've got an incredible podcast, The Fit Mess. You and your partner, who is your partner?
His name is Zach Tucker.
You and Zach Tucker have a men's mental health podcast, the show for
Yeah.
men who are sick of their own shit and ready to make a change for better mental health. I love this. And when did you start this podcast, you and Zach Tucker?
Yeah, I think we're going on about 6 years, and it was born in the middle of Zach and I both. We were both new parents, and we were having a lot of conversations about that. When we first met, we met because our wives were pregnant at the same time. And so we went through, they were in like a fit mom group where they were going to run a triathlon like a few months after giving birth, some like Herculean effort that they overcame. And they did. And so because they were hanging out, suddenly, I like Star Wars, he likes Star Wars. So now we have to have brunch together so we can get to know each other.
Yeah.
And so, we came to all those events doing what guys do, sizing each other up and talking about the sports ball event that neither one of us really cared about, but you have to be up on it so you can have something to talk about with other guys because God knows you can't talk about your feelings. And so it was just kind of that surface level stuff for a long time. But then once our kids were born, it became, man, are you getting any sleep? Are you dealing with this? Because we're dealing with this thing. Oh, have you had this happen? And all of a sudden it was getting really vulnerable and we were able to really share. And I'll never forget, we were camping one weekend and he had just lost a ton of weight and he was showing me this app he was using and he was on the keto diet and doing all these things. And I was like, tell me more. So he starts talking to me about what he was doing to lose all this weight. And I adapted it, made it my own. And that was sort of the beginning of my weight loss journey. And so we kept kind of going back and forth with, this is working for me, this isn't working for me. And I was doing a podcast before that was not health and fitness. It was my brother and a friend of ours, and we would just get completely hammered and just talk about the most ridiculous things that were going on in our lives. It was like a comedy morning show kind of thing. But my lifestyle had changed. And so that show was coming to an end. And so Zach came to me and said, these conversations that you and I have, like, I don't hear other guys talking like this. This is probably a podcast. And I said, that's completely nuts. I'm no expert. I have nothing on my wall that says I should be telling anyone how to do anything to better their lives. But we talked about it more and realized that just by sharing our experience, just by sharing what we were doing and how it was working for us, might be that micro adjustment that somebody else needs to hear that's a few steps behind us. And so that's what we've been doing for the last few years, is talking about those little changes. And I really like thinking of it as the 5% of your day that you can change that can improve your entire life. Like just those tiny little things that you can do, just like an hour a day, not even a solid hour, but like if you can find an hour in your day broken up or together to go for a walk, go to the gym, eat a little better, meditate, journal, like all these little things. They're all basics. None of the advice I'm giving you here is some trade secret. It's all the basics. But it's amazing how when you do them consistently, it adds up and it completely changes your life.
It does add up. And so when you first started the podcast as compared to where you are now, what type of changes have you and your partner, Zach Tucker, seen?
In our health and our wellness?
In your health, your wellness, your overall life, your well-being.
Yeah. It's an amazing motivational tool, how when you have to turn on a microphone every week and talk about the things you're doing to take care of yourself, how it motivates you to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So that's really good. We in the past have had a lot of guests and they're incredible, right? You get a 30 to 60 minute masterclass with somebody who's done all kinds of deep research on something you're interested in.
Right.
And you can ask them all the questions in the world. And it's incredible. Like what an incredible resource to be able to talk to some of the greatest minds in the world about these things to take better care of yourself.
Sure.
And, we've done, I don't know, 240 something episodes at this point. And do we do everything from all 240 episodes? No. Some of them didn't work for us. And we're honest about that. But that doesn't stop us from realizing that thing that didn't work for us might work for somebody else. And if that's the 5% adjustment they need to make, we want to talk about it. We want to bring that to light. So we just try to shed some light on some things, either lesser known or really well known and ignored, to just help you make those small changes that lead to a better life.
I love this. Do you see it evolving anytime soon, or do you kind of just go with the flow of your current energies and where you currently are right now?
It is very much from our perspective, but it's about the listener, right? So, I mean, you're not going to tune in and hear us belly aching and whining about our problems. Okay, maybe a little bit, but out of that is going to come, this is how we're dealing with it. This is why these tools are failing me. So that's why I'm going to try these and let you know how they go. And then the next week we'll follow up on that. We still do have occasional guests. We're considering some different format changes that might open up different ways to approach topics that aren't your typical kind of Q&A session. So we have some different ideas that we're kicking around with that right now. But for the most part, it's ultimately it's two guys doing what you don't hear a lot of guys doing, being really vulnerable and really open and really raw about the struggles they're facing and the tools and things they're doing to implement them to get over them.
I love this. I'm part of a men's group. We meet every Monday and there's 9 of us and we've been meeting for almost 7 months now. And I can't wait. I can't wait to tell them about you and your
Oh,
podcast. And
nice.
this, I mean, this is the stuff they need. This is the stuff all men need, really. I mean, vulnerability is huge. It's just the way that the male culture has been throughout history. It's like be quiet and be tough and be a man.
Yeah.
It's like,
Shut
okay,
up and
well,
rub some dirt on it. That's what we're supposed
yeah,
to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm curious about your men's group. How has that helped you? How is that beneficial for you?
You know what's helped me? We do a lot of journal prompts, and so we ask a lot of questions, stuff about creativity. One of them is how can we be a better version of ourselves, or how can we show up even more in a certain part of our area that in our life where we feel we're lacking? Where can we put more energy into that? How can we balance energy? And we also, how are you? What's going on this week? What's been just kind of like it almost feels like group therapy, like the first
Yeah.
30 minutes or so. Then after that, we go into some journal prompting, then we share what we wrote in the journal. So it's been really fun. And then, we clown around sometimes and have a good time and laugh about shit and
Yeah.
it just feels really nice. It feels like like brotherhood, really is what it feels like.
It's so important for guys to have that. I don't think enough guys have that, and I think that's what's led to a lot of the mental health crisis that we're dealing with now. Guys don't have community. We're not good at it, and COVID taught us
Right,
really well how
right,
to be bad at it. So
right.
now we've got to really unlearn the lessons we learned from a 3-year lockdown to put ourselves out there, be vulnerable, be okay with the fact that some people are not going to like you, and you don't have to be for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. But man, if you can find just a handful of other guys that even if you have a text thread that you can go to and say, man, today's one of those days. I'm hurting, I'm down. And to know that they're going to hear it, they're going to receive it, and and even just to hear them say, I feel it too. I'm there with you. Like, man, what a landing pad that is to have that as a resource. I have 2 guys, we're in a thread, and every now and then one of us is just there. We're just there and we need each other. And so we reach out, and just hearing somebody else say, I get it. I'm sorry. That sucks. That's usually enough. But you just need. I saw there was somebody, Simon Sinek, I think, posted a video the other day, and he was saying that I believe it is, and I haven't researched this myself, but he said
Sure.
it's something like 8 minutes is all you need from a friend when you're in that place. So if you can reach out to a friend and say, hey, do you have 8 minutes, and get on a call and just be there with them, just share that space, and have that person hold the space, have that person not offer help, offer suggestions, offer fixes,
Yeah.
but to just be there and hold that space and say, man, that's a lot. I'm sorry. That can make so much of this go away. So do what you can to find
Yeah.
that 1 or 2 people that can be that safe place for you to put that stuff, and start small, right? Don't go to the playground and talk to the first dad you see and start crying, right? Like you got to be measured about this. Let's not be crazy, but find that place to go. Find those friends, because I know for me it's made a huge difference.
It definitely makes a huge difference. And then the best part about that too, if you actually reach out to someone and be like, "Can you give me 8 minutes?" or "Can you give me 5 minutes?" or whatever it is at that moment you're literally asking, can you give me this time? Can you give me this space? I need this space. I don't have this space with anyone else. I trust you.
Yeah.
And in that they feel that trust. And that's love exchange right there. It's giving
Yeah.
and receiving. And you're gonna do the same for them when that
Yeah.
time comes. It
It's an
just makes the
incredible
bond
honor.
stronger. It
It's
really
an
is.
incredible honor when somebody reaches out and says, I need you to hold space for me. Like, dude, yeah, of course. Yeah. There's so much power in that.
Totally. And a lot more dudes are willing to do it than dudes are aware of. Like dudes want to do this actually. And that
That
actually
we're
makes it
hungry for it. We are
yeah.
desperate for it, but we're so damn afraid to show we're afraid, or that we're scared, or that we're having a hard time,
Yeah.
because everything in our culture says you better man the fuck up.
Yep.
That's not healthy.
It's not healthy.
There's a
And it's
place for that. There's a time and a place for that. If you got to change the tire and fix the carburetor and go hunting, you can do all that stuff, but you can do this too. They don't have to be separate. You can be a more fully functioning, fully human person by bringing in some of the feelings that you've been told your entire life you're not supposed to feel.
And it feels great because when a friend or when at least two males, I mean, probably the same for two females as well, but when two males come together and they're able to be vulnerable together and open up together, I mean, and it feels good. I mean, not only does it feel good, your whole day is lifted after that. It's like
Yeah.
just having someone give you that time and that space and that energy. And also a lot of the times they grew up not having that male role model that where they were okay to be like, I mean, I don't remember when my dad ever came up to me or I was able to be like, "Hey, can you give me 5 minutes?"
Yeah.
It just wasn't the culture, it wasn't the way to speak to anybody actually. But when you allow and you give someone the space to speak that way, it just opens up the channel to so much more love and so much more giving and taking and receiving. And it's really,
Yeah.
it creates harmony. It's wonderful.
Women have been doing this for centuries, right? Like they've
Yeah.
got this figure, like they're
Yeah.
way better at this. Culturally, they're supposed to be the emotional ones. They're supposed to be the ones that are more open and exchanging feelings, and like they give each other a big hug every time they see each other. Like they're
Yeah. They
so
go to the
open with their
restroom
feelings.
together.
Yeah, they're so open with each other. And we're sitting over here going, how do we figure this out? Oh, I don't know, Bob. What are you going to do? I don't know. Get me a beer, right? Look at what your wife is doing. She's just talking about her feelings with another person. Look how happy she is. Like
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
this is not brain surgery, folks. It's pretty simple stuff.
Yeah. Just talk about it. I love this.
Yeah.
So, man, this has been incredible. So I wrote a poem that I was inspired. I'm a poet. I've been writing since I was 7 years old. That's kind of my way of getting my mind to unravel its thoughts and beliefs and stuff. So I'm going to read a poem that I wrote, and I dedicated this to our interview. So thank you so much for the
Wow.
inspiration. It's called The Beat of My Drum. Marching to the beat of my drum, wherever I walk, however I talk, wherever I sit, however I play. Marching to the beat of my own drum, I sometimes pray, I sometimes cry, and I sometimes stay quiet. But I won't shy away from marching to the beat of my drum. For it's in the beat of my drum where I find purpose, where I dance with creation, where I laugh in anticipation, and where I sing with my eyes closed, dancing to the beat of my own drum. And that's it. Thanks so
That
much
is
for the
beautiful, man.
inspiration. Thank
That
you.
is
I
beautiful.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So where can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you and your podcast, The Fit Mess?
Everything is at thefitmess.com. Don't spell it wrong. It's not fitness. It's fitmess. thefitmess.com.
Thefitmess.com. Thank you so much, Jeremy Grater, for being here on A Little Less Fear podcast. It's been awesome connecting with you. Much love for you and your family. Happy 2024.
It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Dr. Lino Show, A Little Less Fear podcast. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can do so by sending me an email at alittlelessfear@gmail.com or through an inquiry from my website at www.alittlelessfear.com, where you will always find information on where to get my book. You can get my book on Amazon and Amazon paperback version, Kindle or Kindle Unlimited. And I also create incredible visual video poetry for people that are interested in marketing or even just to send a personal note to anybody or somebody that you might love. So yeah, check it out. I love it. Poetry is my passion, one of my other passions, aside from doing what I do right now, which is giving you all the motivation that you need to keep growing, to keep motivating people, motivating yourself, and to keep expanding. I love you all so much. Have a blessed day and take care. Rock on.